and welcome to What It Takes. I'm your host, Tom Landon. On this program, the topic of workforce development comes up often, and we tend to think largely in terms of technical skills and earning certifications. Our community colleges make workforce development a priority, but having skills training is often not enough to ensure success on the job. My guest today is working to change all that by building the soft skills that workers also need. Things like how to interview, how to get along with coworkers, and how to become an employee whose value transcends just how to do a job to include strategies for becoming an invaluable part of your company. Regina Cook is the Administrative Officer for Training Solutions at Virginia Western Community College here in Roanoke, where she helps implement programs that build all of the skills that graduates will need when they enter or advance in the workforce. Thank you so much for coming, Regina. I'm really looking forward to this conversation.
Thanks for having me, Tom. It's great to be here.
So I know you just have been very, very busy this week before you got here. So again, thanks for taking the time. I always like to start just by asking my guests, like, how did you get where you are now to the position you are? What was sort of your educational and personal path?
Oh, wow. This has been an exceptional journey for me, many decades, but I didn't start out in higher education. I started out very much in the corporate landscape in finance, mergers, and acquisitions. And then God had another plan for me, Tom, and his name is Evan. So after multiple decades in business development initiatives and growing ventures and companies, I decided to go back and pursue higher education as an adult training specialist, which is quite different than the K-12 arena. It is targeted for adults, after which I secured educational technology and another grad program in leadership and human resource development. So we're developing the organizations and we're developing the individuals. And
we're getting ready to talk about soft skills as one of the things we're going to talk about. Yep. What does that mean?
That's a great question, and it's a term that's used frequently. And the soft skills themselves often tie to the Commonwealth of Virginia's 21st century workforce readiness skills. There are 22 of them. We are in the year 2022. So we have developed fabulous programs that are actually broken down into 1 hour increments that deal with each of the 22 workforce readiness skills. Big picture thinking, professionalism, conflict resolution. We did it in the 1 hour micro sessions, particularly because many organizations, manufacturing as an example, cannot always afford to take 20 or 30 individuals off of a production line for 3 to 4 hours.
Right.
Right.
Not a place where you're taking people to a conference. You
Exactly.
need that training now.
Exactly. But the soft skills, what it really means is full functionality and full vibrancy of the individual's abilities. Letting them know where they exist within the organization and where what they do has that inherent value, and showing them that they're a critical component of the entity.
So as somebody who came from the corporate world, looking back now that you've really delved into this topic especially, are there certain soft skills that certain things you wish you had known when you were doing, acquisitions and that kind of thing?
Oh, sure. Well, you can imagine conflict resolution. So the greatest part is I'll call it back in my era. There was a tremendous amount of funding and pursuits by organizations to foster these skills within their employees. So there was a lot of focus in training and development. It was a natural component. Of course, with the economy, when it's wonderful, the first thing organizations do and should not do is defaulter their training department. They let them go, they short, we're good, we're running, everything's great. We don't necessarily need the training. When the economy starts to shift, we start to see organizations expand their training divisions. So there's an offset. Now we're seeing huge growth and huge initiatives in professional development now because employees realize that when organizations invest in them, the retention is higher, the performance is better. There's a natural trust on the part of the employee that wants to belong and wants to have meaning in their work.
And especially right now in a time with a perceived labor shortage, and that's certainly different in different parts of the country and the state, but when you have to go out and hire new employees, it's a lot more difficult than just keeping the ones you already
Absolutely.
have, right?
Absolutely.
So are you
Absolutely.
seeing that when you talk to people about, we want to keep these people, we don't want to lose these people?
So it's very much about training the leadership as well as training the employees and showing them where the true ROI is on the transfer of the skills. So towards instructional design and how programming has changed also, I'll take it back to maybe the 80s and 90s where it was unidirectional. You're the learner, I'm the instructor, I'm going to give you information, you're going to receive information. Those days are over. We build training now based on the 16-factor learning transfer systems inventory, and that's critical because it determines the success of the transfer of the skills and knowledge that we build in the programs back to the job. We want them to be able to foster the skills and foster the information and abilities that we are giving them during the training program.
So as a woman who was in the high-powered business world before, I asked you the question, were there things you wish you had known? I'm sure also, are there things that you wish the people you worked for and with, in addition to conflict resolution, had known about showing your employees that you value them and those sort of things?
I think we're seeing that change now. We're seeing a lot of awakened leadership. We are transcending the endemic, et cetera, and we're going to continually see a change in the pathways in leadership. Being out with the corporations, there are many doing it right? The value in employees and equipping them with what they need. There are others that are strategizing, labor shortage, let's upskill the individuals that we have. So it's becoming a wonderful natural product of betterment for the entity.
Right, and that just makes everybody stronger. You've mentioned sort of instructional design type things several times in this conversation. It's very important to us here in the education department at Blue Ridge PBS. So how have you watched that evolve? Not just related to COVID, but I'm sure that's come into it as well. But in terms of presenting some of this stuff, not in that sage on the stage, I'm going to tell you what you need to know,
That's right.
but to make it a more holistic approach. What's the role of technology in that?
The role of technology?
Yeah, in terms of like when you're designing curriculum, some things can be done face to face. We're going to bring these people in
Absolutely.
for an hour. Are you working on things that are also more not that, I guess?
Yes. So we do both. We develop for in-person courses, and we also deliver via Zoom facilitation because many of our clients are fully remote. So we modify the programming to fit that media.
Right. You strike me as someone who is your work is going to be based on what has been proven to work, what the research shows in a broad sense. What kind of research backs up this call? This sounds like, it sounds touchy-feely maybe to some, right? Or it's not as important to my bottom line that you have to be able to do this job.
Sure.
When you go in to talk to a CEO or to others, how are you presenting this in a way that helps them understand that this isn't just your opinion?
Well, absolutely, and it starts with a very fervent needs analysis, and that analysis is based on not only what they are telling us, but we're trying to also listen to what they're not telling us. We then will customize the program. So we have master templates, but then they get recustomized for every client that we see to fit those needs. Then we do a learner analysis because it's so critical. We've got multiple generations working together more than ever before. So exciting, but also can present challenges. So then we do that learner assessment tells us further how to customize this programming to meet the desired outcomes. Also, we are threading through soft skills with our plans as well, so that those soft skills, while maybe they're trying to foster the ability in SBI methodology, which is one way to handle a difficult conversation, we'll also teach them a little bit about voice tone and delivery and semantics so that they start to poise themselves in such a way to be able to be effective in that delivery.
You talk about the different generations. I have noticed that myself coming back to work here after being gone for a while. Just the vitality of some of the younger members of the staff and the things they can do that are so much faster than I could do them, and their creativity and things. Do you sometimes have to open the eyes of leadership to, like, you have real potential here?
Back to my comment about several organizations are really doing it right. Many are investing in reverse mentor programs. They are starting to implement them, create program documents.
Reverse mentor program
Reverse
means
mentoring.
what?
So many of us have had mentors. We still have mentors. It's a professional extension. It's something that helps to guide our career pathways. And so reverse mentoring, as opposed to mentoring where you have typically an older, more experienced mentoring the younger, less experienced, in reverse mentoring, it's actually younger mentoring older, more experienced. So that is done not so much on a one-to-one, it's more an incubator style, whereas 4 to 6 younger are with 1 to 2 more experienced older. And what it does is it enables the new imaginative lens to old problems. You see, experience becomes the nemesis. We go for decades upon decades upon decades of capturing our education, our experience, our know-how. And so we solved a problem 2 months ago with that experience. We have a new problem. Our natural tendency is to go, let me go to that experience bank. So we're solving new problems with the same experience. By gaining the lenses and the new perceptions of the younger generations who haven't built this experience yet, gives us creativity and innovation.
Right, and they're also the ones who were most recently in school and most recently trained and all of that. So you are with the School of Career and Corporate Training, which I know that it's common in the community college system here in Virginia, but I don't normally think of that as like, oh, we have the School of Humanities and we have the School of Science and we have, so how does that fit into the broader campus culture of Virginia Western Community College and other community colleges in the Commonwealth?
So I know here at Virginia Western, during my tenure, I have wonderful bridges and wonderful relationships with all of our academic schools here on campus. We are workforce development, but it's really, workforce development is a catch-all. It's very real, but the terminology itself is very, very often used. So prior to my arrival, our vice president led up a mission to rebrand our school from workforce services to what is it that we actually do, right? From a vantage point in marketing and branding. So we are the School of Career and Corporate Training. So I have a compatriot who leads up the career side of our house. So that is your CDL training, it is your phlebotomy, it is your EKG, et cetera, where people come for career pathways. Then there's the corporate side of the house, where I go out with the corporations, do the needs analysis, do the instructional design, and then select an instructor. Sometimes I serve as the instructor, and we deliver out on the client's site. And that is everything from our mechatronics programming, electricity as an example, to change management, to the reverse mentoring, to leadership. There's essentially no topic that we cannot deliver training in on a corporate site.
Now, when we were doing our sort of pre-interview yesterday and I was talking to you, you had come off a very busy day. And you were, I believe, out in Botetourt County working with, I think you said over 100 folks. Tell me what those sessions look like when you're talking to such a large, kind of fairly broad group, I think. And, you know, are you in a sense just making more work for yourself when you do that? Because what happens after that?
Well, the nice thing about exceptional training is that it can take a form in any environment, and it's always intrinsically motivated and always about the audience. So yesterday I presented. It was a luncheon and presentation to 105 women of the chamber, business leaders here in the Roanoke Valley. And it was wonderful. And so we talked very much about embracing change. We talked very much about taking risks. we talked very much about what that means, growing into a leader and enhancing our great ascension out of this pandemic.
And I understand that, during the pandemic, a lot of what you would normally be doing and what the college would be doing was sort of put on hold, right? So are you facing a backlog now, and how are you feeling about all the work that's coming your way?
Well, I was not in this position initially during that time, but I was still delivering live classes. However, I was commissioned to hurry up and get everything online. So we were essential in continuing educational initiatives in my former capacity, and then here at Western I actually delivered a class in person December of 20. I think it was myself and the janitor and the mail person. It was a very odd feeling because our campus is normally flush with excitement and activity, but we continued in education. We didn't lose a beat.
Right. People who are watching this at home and thinking, oh, that's really interesting, I wonder how I could learn a little bit more about that. Is there a reading list, or is there a book or two that you say, this is a good gateway into kind of understanding what we're all about?
I recently delivered a program, and we attached a book to it, and it was entitled, Help Them Grow or Watch Them Go. And we threaded that through the program and the readings that were in it, and I still get emails, I just use this tool. So we're very much about using the tool and equipping our workforce that enables their growth, that enables the organizational growth, that then in turn grows our community.
Sure, so help them grow or watch them go. And when you talk about watching them go, what do you see as the cost to an organization that is watching people go?
It's monumental. It is monumental. It costs probably 5 times more to onboard and train a new person than to retain one.
And when you talk about conflict resolution, I mean, I have worked in places, this is not one of them, thankfully, where there was
good.
A lot of conflict.
Same for me. Virginia Western has been wonderful.
If you find yourself in an organization where you identify that that's a big need, like you guys need to get along. What are some of the things that you would tell them, the quick version, like what do you say to somebody when you notice when you walk in, they may not know that's one of their problems, but how do you kind of address that, which seems to be a very big elephant in the room?
The conflict resolution side, the big elephant, yes. It's often about, and I shared this morning in a session. We were told as young children, don't talk to strangers. Now in our work life, we are thrown into the mix of strangers, essentially. We are put onto teams of people we don't know. So conflicts often arise because people don't know one another. They're interpreting things that may not be real. So we foster relational dynamics with a lot of our programs also. Employees want to belong, they want to trust, they want to feel psychologically safe. And the awakened leaders need to nurture the combined mission and vision and open up the relational dynamic between the employees that work there.
And I think of trainings and things that I have been to in the past where this was sort of kind of addressed. Oh, we're going to have what do they call it, a bell ringer or a warm-up activity. But then once that's over, you sit there and you watch somebody do a PowerPoint. Obviously people should reach out to you all, and we'll put your contact information on the screen to make sure that they can find you. But again, in the absence of that, how do people start thinking about getting to know you is not just something you do at the meeting, at the start of a meeting?
Correct.
I mean, how do you build those skills to really learn about the people you work with?
Well, we believe very much in social facilitation, increasing performance by being in a group. So all of our programming is heavy engagement, heavy participation, heavy get to know one another. At the presentation yesterday, I walked up with a microphone to many people to engage them. We put them in conversation with one another. So many times we have cohorts of individuals coming from different departments. And while they all work for the same organization, for the same goals and mission, they don't always know one another. So there's your cross-department communication breakdown. When they get to know one another, they start to form a common language. And then that transcends the growth and achievement of goals.
One of the things you mentioned was that, how many, the vast increase in remote workers, that's probably not going away, especially if you want to attract the best.
Right.
They may not live where
Right.
you are. What are some of the challenges that brings? Because I know that, one way I get to know my coworkers is by walking into their office and
Having
see
a
the
cup of
pictures
coffee,
on the,
right.
oh, is that your
Sure.
grandchild? Is that your
Sure.
brother?
Sure.
What have you noticed about that challenge, both during the pandemic and now that, we're not going back to the way things were entirely?
Right. So with the remote going over time, initially the remote work, do we show our backgrounds? Don't we show the backgrounds? Do we see where we are? And so everyone was trying to feel that out. Also with meetings, is it 15 minutes? Is it 30 minutes? And then we moved into take the backgrounds down. I want to see you go get your child from school. I want to see that maybe you like certain kind of paintings, or show me a little bit about yourself. And we started to see that more connection was happening, because when you're at work, it's not your home. And so by seeing that happen, the relationships started to foster between people that were fully remote. Now we're actually moving to a place where Zumbification is happening, and we're teaching about digital meeting burnout,
Right.
which is very real.
Sure.
So we've seen that transcend.
Well, and I think you've probably had this experience too, but sometimes, a child or a dog will come in, and that will sometimes stop a meeting.
Yep.
Is that your dog?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yep.
And people think of that as a distraction, but what you're saying is that often is not a distraction.
No, it's a welcomed distraction.
Right, and it's just because we get to know each other a
Absolutely.
little bit better. So it's interesting. I hadn't thought about the fact that there are ways to know each other better because of that technology,
Yep.
just because of that. I know it's not your area specifically, but you work very closely with folks who are working with the students. How can we help our students, not all young people, many students are not any younger than I am, build those skills while they're in a classroom setting or while they're on a campus setting, so that when they arrive, maybe they already have some of these skills?
Right. I know that across campus, the professors are working hard to thread the soft skills into their programming also. I know several of our centers have additional workshops for students that are getting ready to graduate. We delivered one recently in emotional intelligence for these graduates. So it's a campus-wide effort.
And, on the day that we're taping this, just yesterday, the governor was talking a lot about workforce development. You talked about that being a catch-all. There is a movement afoot to sort of think about the way that the state treats workforce development. I think I know your answer, but tell me, in terms of how's the community college system positioned to work with the Department of Labor and those who handle unemployment and those who handle education. Where does the community college fit in that Venn diagram?
I would say we're an absolute resource that will be a supportive entity to all of the initiatives that are occurring to open up equal opportunity for our labor force, for jobs.
Yeah, but I can imagine that in your office, when things like that are said, and I think they'll probably continue to be said, in the coming months, that's not a cause for you guys to freak out, but
Not at
instead
all.
to say, oh, somebody else.
We welcome the opportunity, absolutely, and we can be a serving, contributing entity.
In our last little bit of time here, I may not have asked you about something, but is there, what do you really want people to know about the work that you are doing and how they can find out more about it?
I know that during my tenure here, as the Administrative Officer for Training Solutions, that there are so many companies in the region that can benefit from our services. And when we are able to go in with robust instructional design that is meeting their needs and implementing the kind of change that they need, it's a win for everyone. I have a team of 13 instructors under me, all from varying disciplines. They themselves are starting a professional development program in September. So we are vetted, we are multifaceted, and cover an array of disciplines on the corporate training side.
All right, well, good luck in all that you're doing.
I'm excited.
And that is all the time we have. And Regina, I just want to thank you for taking time out of what is clearly a very busy schedule to make the short trek over to our studios today. Viewers who want to find out more about the soft skills building programs at Virginia Western can visit the website that is on your screen. For What It Takes, I'm Tom Landon.